Today we're going to talk about how to demonstrate that you care about your partner by adapting your plans to meet their specific needs. After all, actions speak louder than words. My name's Lazarus Redmayne. I run TheDuchy.com. Joining me today is my partner, Kajira Blue.
Hi.
Now, if you're new to BDSM or to rope, there's a lot of important things to know about the general risks of using rope, how to plan for and mitigate those risks. Like the locations where the nerves are more likely to be impacted, how to tell when that's happening, and what to do about it. There are a lot of things to know, sometimes not even related to rope itself. Like if the person has diabetes or asthma, you need to have their glucose tabs or inhaler within easy reach. We have a lot of free content on TheDuchy.com. Over the course of the presentation today, I'm going to talk about a number of different techniques. We don't have time to teach all of those techniques in this class, but every time I use one, I'm going to give you the name of it, and if you go to this page, you'll be able to find a link to the free tutorial. The tutorials have videos and pictures and text walking you through the details of each step on how to do that specific technique. So if you need a place to get started or need a refresher, go here. Find the Start Here section. Here you'll find direct links to articles on how to set yourself up for success, negotiation and planning, risks when using rope, nerves and circulation, and more. We even have general scene and rope scene negotiation forums to help guide you through these conversations. Again, here's the link, and I'll show it again at the end. Today's topic is actually not about all those things. Today's topic is about the fact that every body is different and every person has different capabilities and needs. By the end of this class, you'll have a number of very useful tools to adapt your ties to your partner's specific needs. As a rigger or rope top, you need to understand various ways to adapt your ties and modify your plans, to develop a few key skills, common adaptations, that allow you to be more flexible in your approach and therefore work with a greater variety of people.
As a rope bottom, you need to understand these common adaptations as well so you can better advocate for yourself. If you know that some given common approach doesn't work for you, understanding these things will help you talk with your top about adaptations that may help to improve your experience.
Here is an incomplete list of situations that may require you to adapt or modify your plans or approach. Differences in body size and shape, different primary and secondary sex characteristics, low limb mobility or low flexibility, asthma, breathing complications, allergy to grasses, hypersensitivity, loose flesh or skin, potential for loss of consciousness mid-scene, perhaps from diabetes or narcolepsy, blood conditions, low blood circulation, blood thinners, etc. Mental conditions, ADHD, autism spectrum disorder, OCD, claustrophobia, conditions that may lead to an unexpected reaction, history of gender dysphoria. These and other physical, medical, or psychological needs may require adaptation or modification to standard rope patterns and approaches. Any one of us could find ourselves in positions such as these at some point during our lives. That does not change our human needs for attention, connection, play, and excitement. So instead of viewing the need for modification as any sort of a barrier, think about it as an opportunity to practice skills that could be valuable to any of your play partners, including yourself. When you learn to tie, you're usually learning from a resource that's tying on a person or maybe a mannequin that may be very different from your current tying partner. Because of this, some modification is almost always necessary. There are a small number of general skills that give you the ability to modify or adapt your ties, allowing you to work with a wider variety of people. We'll go over those in just a minute. By taking the time and effort to understand your partner and the specific needs they have, you demonstrate that you care more about them than you do about any short-term plans that you might have. It's by our actions that we're judged. And the action of first seeking to understand and then modifying and adapting your plans and ties to a person's specific needs that demonstrates your care and integrity as a rigger and as a human being. So before we get into the list of common adaptations, let's talk about talking. It's important that you set an accepting tone.
Talking about yourself, your body, and your mind, your fantasies and desires is a very vulnerable thing to do. Many people are not comfortable with it. How you talk and the things you say are crucial in establishing trust. This is true of both tops and bottoms. They may be self-conscious. They may be nervous. They may fear being judged. These are all very normal reactions. Help them feel accepted.
If you're a rope top, your partner needs to see you as somebody truly and authentically seeking to understand. It's only by understanding our partner's specific needs that we can plan for a scene that's going to be fulfilling both for them and for us. Only through open conversation can you identify where your original plans may not work for a particular person, and therefore avoid that awkwardness and maybe self-consciousness on either side of running into an avoidable issue in the middle of your scene. Now, some of my favorite phrases for beginning conversations like this are, "My plans for you are not as important to me as your long-term physical and mental well-being." And, "Given what we're talking about, is there anything about you that I need to know that might cause you to have a reaction that I might not anticipate, or to cause things to go away that I might not expect?"
If you are a bottom, your partner needs you to be open and honest. Someone that is willing to tell them the important things that may be relevant, even if you are uncomfortable, so that they are able to properly plan. Part of being a safe bottom is that you can be trusted to share that relevant information. If you do not feel comfortable talking about relevant considerations with a potential rope top for any reason, reconsider tying with them.
Now, let's talk about a few core adaptations and modification skills. Here's a list of common situations that you will routinely incorporate into rope practice that allow you to modify and adapt ties to a wider variety of situations. Actually be flexible with your plans. Choose appropriate rope. Adapt the rope path and structure for your partner's body shape and type. Reduce the pressure of rope on the body if needed. Have options to handle limited limb mobility. Plan ahead so that you can immediately or very rapidly release your partner in the event of an emergency. And there are many other situations that may require other kinds of adaptations. We don't have time to talk about all of them today, but you can find more about them on TheDuchy. Today we're going to focus on these 6 skills. Learn them, practice them. They're important. The first main adaptation skill is to actually be willing to adapt and modify your plans. Finalize your plans only after talking with your partner about their abilities, capabilities, and needs. Don't be one of those my way or the highway kind of people. This goes both ways. As a top, you may really want to see your partner tied in a strict strappado, but if they're unable to have their arms behind their back for a long period of time, you need to choose a different tie.
As a bottom, you may want to be suspended, but if both you and your partner have not yet developed the skills to do that, that will be something to build up to, not something to try tonight.
The second core adaptation skill is to choose the appropriate rope. Some people are allergic to long grasses. Some people have specific skin sensitivity needs. Some people simply have personal preferences. Talk about these things and choose the appropriate rope. If your partner's allergic to long grasses, don't go with hemp or with jute. Choose cotton, nylon, MFP, or posh instead. If your partner is sensitive to the feel of small fibers against their skin, perhaps because of fibromyalgia or autism spectrum disorder, don't use unprocessed natural fiber rope. In fact, even processed natural fiber rope might be a little bit too much for them, depending on the severity of the condition. Instead, look for synthetic fiber rope that's a lot smoother, like nylon or MFP. If this topic comes up in your negotiations, give them a piece of your rope, let them feel it against their skin, and let you know if it will work.
Another thing that can help in the case of sensitive skin is tight-fitting garments. Think tight enough to not disrupt your tying, and to keep the skin supported and protected from the rope.
The third skill is adapting the rope path and rope structure for your partner's particular body shape and type. Make your rope fit your partner's body. This is one of the great creative challenges of rope. It is infinitely variable, allowing us to tie the infinite variety of people out there. You may tie people with different body shapes, sizes, or proportions, different geometric shapes that you'd like to highlight. You may be tying somebody with different primary or secondary sex characteristics than when you learned the tie. They may have a penis, or a vulva, or neither, or both. They may have breasts, or no breasts, or small breasts, or large breasts. All of these things require slight modifications to how you tie your rope. Let's talk about tying on different body shapes, sizes, and proportions. Different body shapes and sizes require different amounts of rope for the same tie. When you buy rope intended for bondage, or you're cutting your own rope, you typically cut to a few standard lengths. Therefore, whenever you're tying somebody, there's only going to be 2 lengths, too long or too short. Extending rope is a common part of tying. Both you and your partner need to know that, and you need to know how to do it. Here's one useful way of doing it, by converting a lark's head into a square knot. So here I'm tying a chest harness and I've run out of rope. I need to add more. This is my existing rope, this is my new rope. Well, the first thing, create a lark's head like that. Slip that lark's head over top of the old rope, tighten it down a little bit. Then you're going to bend that old rope around that lark's head and collapse it like that into a little square knot. And now you can continue tying. Now, one of the really nice things about this technique is, as you can see, it doesn't really matter if the ends of your rope are not perfectly even. And by the way, if you need to extend your rope, just extend it. Don't comment on it. If a person doesn't know that extending rope is a normal and expected part of tying, they might hear a phrase like, hang on, I need to get more rope, as a type of size shaming. This is usually less of an issue if somebody's experienced with rope, but if somebody's new or they're sensitive about their size, a comment like that could be emotionally devastating. Related to this is learning various ways to use up extra rope if you have too much, and you will. We won't go into that today, but it is a critical set of skills to develop. We have a tutorial on TheDuchy with 14 different common ways to do so. Now let's talk about tying on somebody with different primary or secondary sex characteristics. First of all, somebody with no breasts or small breasts. Even if a tie seems to have been designed for a person with breasts, it can be easily adapted to somebody with no breasts or small breasts. Firstly, think about rope as needing to be anchored to a person's underlying skeletal structure, not any of the squishy stuff on top. If you're thinking about it like that, it doesn't really matter whether a person has breasts or not, unless you're going for a specific look. The main load-bearing straps of most chest harnesses go in about the same place, across the lower part of the chest, across the lower part of the sternum, and across the upper part of the chest or the upper part of the sternum. This is the strongest part of the rib cage and the best place to support weight. Now, if your partner has breasts, you navigate the rope around those breasts, like that. If they don't, you can make the harness less bra-like by running the horizontal straps of a chest harness closer together and straight across the chest. Also, arrange any vertical support lines so that they keep those horizontal straps straight and they don't deflect them up or down. You can also use rope to enhance small breasts, or to give somebody breasts if they don't already have them. Now, you can use the vertical element to give the breasts a more bulgy appearance and, if you choose, lift them up. Like that. Let's talk about adapting rope for larger breasts. Remember, when tying a chest harness, you're tying to the underlying skeletal structure. If your partner has large breasts, this usually means the rope needs to go underneath them. So, one way you can do that without touching breasts is to put the rope on lower than the breasts, and then as you gently slide it, you can slide it up underneath like that. If their arms are free, you can have them lift their breasts out of the way, or, with prior negotiation, you can lift them out of the way. If you're planning an arms-in harness, like the fisherman's harness, for example, the arms are going to be bound in this position. If the person has large breasts, they may get uncomfortably compressed. Experiment with your partner to figure out where their breasts will be the most comfortable. Perhaps coming up from below and squishing up and perhaps a bit apart. Squishing in from the sides. Coming from above and squishing down. Everybody is different, and different people will prefer different things. Large breasts may move in different ways. Most chest harnesses have a band below the breasts, above the breasts, and often something in the middle as well. Larger breasts may tend to flow out to the sides. If you want to prevent this, you can add optional framing straps on the outside as well. Check out the bra tutorial for ideas on how to do this. The LUIO frame, lower, upper, inner, outer, provides one idea on how you might be able to frame larger breasts. Now let's talk about adapting the crotch rope element of a hip or waist harness to accommodate a penis or a dildo. A crotch rope is a line running right through the middle between the legs from front to back or back to front so as to interact with whatever is between them. If a harness does not have a crotch rope element, it likely needs little to no modification to accommodate different anatomy. If it does have one, it's easy to modify. Here are two simple ways. Simply separate the lines of your tail and then run one on each side, keeping them against the body at the base and not running over the balls. Optionally, you can decide if you want to add a knot above or below that point. These elements increase the pressure and grip on the base, increasing sensation or increasing hold. Doing this can be used to add a dildo to your partner if you want. Alternatively, you can run the tail both forward and back, each time running on a different side. So here we have a lark's head single column with a node in the back. We run the tail to the front on one side, add a cow hitch, start running the tail to the back, adding a half hitch above and below as we go. Run it to the back, lock off, done. The fourth major class of adaptations are reducing the pressure of the rope on the body if needed. This can be helpful when tying somebody with softer flesh, a larger body size, skin that's more sensitive to pressure, or simply because of personal preference. Managing pressure starts with how tightly you tie. The more tightly you put the rope on the skin, the more force it exerts and the greater the pressure. Making sure you can get 2 fingers between the rope and the skin will, for most people, usually result in straps that are not too tight. But what if that doesn't work, and the rope's still pressing too firmly on your partner's skin and it's uncomfortable to them? Too much pressure is highly subjective, and it will be different for different people and different parts of the body. No matter what the reason, if the tension of or on the ropes increases, that means the pressure on the body increases and the risk of injury increases. As the tension increases, the force and pressure of the rope against the skin increases. Ropes dig more deeply into a person's skin, pressing more firmly into what's beneath: nerves, blood vessels, muscles, bone, increasing the risk of damage. When a person's flesh is softer, that means the rope can press into them more deeply. When that happens, things underneath the skin, nerves, blood vessels, etc., move more relative to each other. So the risk of nerve damage due to shearing forces or having that nerve stretch too far, for example, can be greater. There's a single solution that can help in all these cases, and that's reduce the pressure. If you're doing floor work, non-suspension, one way to reduce the pressure is to simply tie less tightly. But if your partner is a brat or an eel and likes to try to escape, it can be very disappointing to find out they can. There is another way to lower pressure, one that allows you to tie your ropes tightly enough to contain your partner and can also be used in suspensions. And that is to spread the force over a larger area, or make your straps wider. Remember your high school physics: pressure equals force divided by area. This means that if area increases, the pressure goes down. And by decreasing the pressure, you decrease the impact on things underneath the skin like nerves or blood vessels and decrease the risk. There are 2 common ways to make a strap wider. You can learn the technique of how to do it on TheDuchy, but let's look at the results. The first way to make wider straps is by using thicker rope. This is 8mm, 5/16 rope. This is 6mm, 1/4 inch rope. You can see how a strap made with this rope is wider. One word of caution: rope with a thicker diameter has larger gaps between the strands, and this means that it can be a little more likely to pinch, especially if somebody has loose flesh where the rope is. Make sure to run your fingers under the strap to free any caught skin before putting any strain on the rope strap. You can make wider straps using more strands. Here we have a strap made with 3 wraps, 6 total strands of 6mm compared to the standard 2 wraps, 4 total strands. You can see it's much wider. Of course, you could always do both. Here's a standard 2 wrap with 6mm compared to a 3 wrap with 8mm. You can see it's much wider, distributing the force across a much greater area. Now, regardless of what you do to lower the pressure, remember to always continue to tie well. Make sure that all of your lines are parallel and all have the same level of tension. As far as your body is concerned, a strap is only as wide as its tightest strand. So it's important that all the strands be the same level of tension to actually distribute that force across a wider area. The 5th main category of adaptations is having the ability to handle different levels of limb mobility. Different people have different levels of limb mobility or flexibility. These differences can stem from a wide variety of reasons: genetics, individual physical training, individual body mechanics, injury, pregnancy, surgery, EDS, and many other reasons. Asymmetric limb mobility, where flexibility in one limb is different from another, is also common. So there's a few things you can do to help. Number 1, don't seem cold. If attempting a challenging position, do some warm-up and some light stretching first. Be careful. Go slowly. Build capability over time. Never force somebody past the limits of their flexibility, and don't even tie them too closely to that limit. If this is the limit of their flexibility, don't tie right here. If you do, a simple accident or moment of inattention could push them past that limit, which could result in serious injury. So tie a little back from their limits so you have that safety margin. Ensure your partner is using good body mechanics. If they've never been shown how to assume a position, they actually might have more flexibility than they believe. One example of this is when a person believes they cannot put their arms behind their back. This may be true. Or it may actually be that they've not been shown how important shoulder position is in order to do so. When you shift your shoulders back, it moves your arms further back, which naturally puts your wrists and elbows closer together. This can be helpful for several kinds of behind the back scenes. Now, it's important to note, for some people, doing nothing more than putting their shoulders back will put pressure on the brachial plexus, this network of nerves that runs across the front of the shoulder, leading to nerve compression. An important test when working with someone and planning a behind-the-back scene is to make sure they're comfortable having their arms behind their back with no rope on before tying them that way. Just have them sit with their arms behind their back like this for 10-20 minutes, watch a show or something, see if they remain comfortable throughout, or if they report any strange sensations. If so, they may be experiencing pressure of their brachial plexus. Now, if you want to do a box tie, not only having your shoulders back, but shoulder rotation also plays a big part. You need to be able to also rotate your shoulder inward. If this is not something that's easy for you to do, sometimes physical therapy or yoga can help. Once you've checked body mechanics, if there's still difficulties, you could simply choose an entirely different position. A tie that does not put your partner in a position that's challenging for them. As an example, a person is unable to put their shoulders back or put both of their arms behind their back, or they start quickly experiencing numbness, tingling, some other kind of strange sensation when they do. In a case like this, just choose a tie that binds their arms in a different position altogether. Perhaps behind, but a little more to the sides. To their sides directly. In front of them. Or perhaps overhead. There are many options available to you. The next option is to choose ties that give you a greater ability to adjust to your partner's individual needs. So here's an example. You want to put your partner into a strict box tie position, something like this, but they are unable to assume this position. It turns out that when you're practicing with them, they can put one arm behind their back, but the other one can only go part way. Well, there's an easy solution for this. By putting a single column on each wrist individually, you can put one wrist at one level, and then put the other one at another level. This allows you to adjust each individually to your partner's abilities and comfort.
If you want to assume and comfortably maintain a position that you currently cannot, physical therapy techniques may help in some cases. Talk to a physical therapist or do some research online to see if they can help. Here are some helpful search terms.
The last main category of adaptations we're going to talk about today is planning ahead for immediate or rapid release in the event of an emergency. One of the first rules for managing risk when using rope is to always have a way to immediately remove rope in the event of an emergency. There are many good reasons for this. An actual emergency, like a fire, potential nerve compression or damage, low blood pressure, loss of consciousness, muscle cramping, mental conditions like ADHD, ASD, claustrophobia, autism spectrum disorder, panic disorder, etc. Things that can cause a situation to go from this is great to this is bad very, very quickly. So when you're tying, it's important to have a way to cut the rope. Always have EMT shears or an EMT hook immediately on your person or within easy arm's reach whenever you're tying. That said, it's almost always better to plan ahead and have a way to immediately or quickly release your partner using rapid untie techniques instead of cutting rope. The key to controlling rope is tension. And if you cut that rope, the tension is immediately lost, and the rope and your partner can move in unpredictable ways. If you can alleviate the situation very quickly without having to cut rope, things tend to stay more controlled. They can be de-escalated, sometimes even more quickly and with less risk than cutting rope. So here are a few quick release techniques that I like. The slipped Somerville bowline is a single column that allows you to untie it very quickly. This is really good for box ties. This is a classic two-rope gote shibari, also sometimes called a TK. With this particular kind of tie, it has ropes running across the upper forearms, and when your arms are bent in this position, your radial nerve tends to come right across this same area. So depending on where this strap lays, it may push on that radial nerve, and your partner may get sensation issues in their hands. If that happens, you want to relieve that tension very, very quickly. And the first thing you would do is move this strand up or down just a little bit by doing that. But if that does not alleviate the issue in about 10 seconds, you need to untie them very, very quickly. And this is where the Somerville bowline comes into play. Because instead of having to untie all of this or cut your rope, all you have to do is pull this little ripcord right here. It releases the Somerville bowline, and you pull out the lines like this, and their arms are free. You gently lay them down and then twist them forward slowly like that. This relieves the pressure on this line right away, and it also puts the radial nerve back over here, out of the way of this line. This tends to resolve the problem right away, giving you time to check in with your partner, make sure they're okay, and then untie your ropes as you have time. The quick release Hojo cuff is an inline single column that allows you to very quickly release the tension on that cuff if needed. It's not a full release like the slipped Somerville bowline, but it does relieve that tension quite a bit, de-escalating the situation, allowing you more time to untie normally. Another one of my favorite techniques is the emergency suspension munter hitch. I like to put it above the ring like this so that you can attach as many ropes as you want to for your suspension down here. But having the emergency suspension munter hitch above the ring allows you to quickly lower your partner in the event of some kind of an emergency. The munter has a tremendous amount of friction built into the knot, so in the event of an emergency, all you need to do is release the upper tail and then control it as it slowly descends. I'm putting almost no pressure on this, and yet it's descending very slowly and very controlled. This allows me to quickly and gently get them to the floor, removing gravity as a force of concern. Often just getting them to the floor is enough to alleviate the immediate issue. And then we can get them untied and reset as they feel better. But if you run into an emergency situation and you don't have one of these quick release techniques in place, or they're not going to help, do not hesitate to 1, support your partner, and then 2, cut the rope. Your partner and the trust between you is far more important than a piece of rope. We've talked about 6 very common kinds of adaptations. There are other situations and scenarios that can be helped by modifying what you tie, how you tie it, or what you tie it with. These are also worth knowing, but we don't have time today. You can learn more about this on TheDuchy. There is a ton of other free material on TheDuchy as well. All the safety and planning information is free, as are all the foundation ties, so you can get a really solid start with just the free material. Now, if you prefer learning from books, you can find all of that same information in our 427-page book. You can find it on TheDuchy, where you'll find links to both the physical and ebook versions on Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, ebooks, and several other sources. After you master the foundations material, there are hundreds of other fun ties for members to explore. We have a section called Creating a Scene that teaches how to combine multiple ties to make fun scenes. Another called Behind the Scene, where we analyze pictures found online discussing how that tie was done. And another called Flogger Forge, teaching you how to create floggers out of old rope. Thank you for joining us. My name's Lazarus Redmayne.
I'm Kajira Blue.
Find us and all of this at TheDuchy.com. You can also find Blue and I on Instagram at TheDuchy, FetLife at Lazarus Redmayne, or Submit.gg at Lazarus Redmayne. If you have questions on your rope journey that TheDuchy doesn't answer, feel free to reach out. Good luck on your explorations.